Okie dokie. This is Linger Longer. It is today, February 16th, 2025. And we just finished Godless Sermon 11, if you guys can believe it. 11 Godless Sermons so far. Dope AF. I love it. We got Coach, we got Mary, and we got Jules. Here we are. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to do better. So I figured out that in StreamYard, what I got to do is just have like a separate studio. So you got like a studio for sermon and a studio for Linger Longer. It's like that, and you can just schedule. That's how you do it. Nobody explained that. No one explained that to me. So that's how we've been doing things. The link is in the description if you guys don't see it and you wanted to join in. I'll throw it in the live comments here. Everybody's welcome. Megan is here. Yeah, so I'm glad you guys liked sermon. Unfortunately, I kept the comments off pretty much all of the sermon. I had a little bit of a hard time keeping my brain straight this morning on things. I did a lot of research into a very separate topic I wound up abandoning. I don't know if you guys knew about this. I just learned about this like yesterday. But apparently, Fox, like News Corp, Rupert Murdoch bought Tubi. And apparently, and I discovered yesterday, they're like aggressively marketing to the Black community. And I was like, what? And yeah, so basically, I guess they felt that there was a neglected opportunity, a market for them to sell reverse mortgages and boner pills. I don't know what to. And so they found out apparently there's a lot of content on Tubi that people in the Black community really, really love. And they decided to buy it, basically to acquire it. And in the same process, this is how it all connects back to this new atheism thing. I got into that because I found out that the same organization, basically Fox's new Tubi thing, is now also has purchased a podcast network, basically called Red Seat Media, whose supporters or whose content creators include Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson. Okay. So basically, Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson are working for Fox News again, but in their current career as podcasters. But it was at the same time that it was revealed that some other people that have been closely associated with them, I haven't figured out exactly how closely, Dave Rubin particularly, and Tim Pool, and a handful of others, right-wing podcasters, have been were caught last year, basically taking money from the Russian government, from the Kremlin. And now that there has been a changing of the guard at the Department of Justice, as there is usually every 4 to 8 years, who knows if that'll ever become a thing? I do, and you do. We both know, but whatever. And now these people. And that's why I posted on Facebook and then deleted right away. I'm like, shit, is everybody selling out to Russia except for me? It's like shocking. We got our good friend Kendall here in the studio, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Kendall in here. What's up, my man?
What's up? Good sermon.
Thank you very much. I see that you've put your website into the comments. Everybody, let's check that out. LearnedEmpowerment.com. We talked about this a little bit last time. Basically, a place where people can go and get training on different, is it coding tools and things like that?
No. So, like, my space is going to be like for ex-Mormons or ex-religious people. And my whole thing is like, my whole life, I thought the gospel of Jesus Christ, the LDS Church, had all the answers to like make your life meaningful and, the best it could be. Turns out it's kind of a sham and a shell game, literally.
Right.
And so it is my job now to chronicle all the beliefs and concepts and skills that actually make the biggest difference to change your life and change the world. So empower yourself with the best ideas and beliefs and concepts this world has ever come across. And I've just wrote my first episode about Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. So I'm going to talk about growth mindset and all the positives that has for your life. And I'm going to rank all these ideas as far as like on a scale from like 1 to 100, how much it'll change your life.
Dope. That's cool, man. There's tons of great stuff out there. I mean, it's an interesting thing I've noticed in the godless community. We've got a lot of readers, right? In fact, it's a little bit of a concern to me that maybe that that dyslexia may be probably the biggest barrier to entry for people who are interested in this stuff, who are interested in the things we talk about. But like you take it, how many atheists have read Sapiens, and how many atheists have read Sex at Dawn? And how many, it's like atheists, I think probably there are more atheists who have read Sapiens than who have read The End of Faith or The God Delusion. And it's
well, that's kind of, I don't know if you saw me commenting during your sermon. I was like, yeah, but where my brain went first was that part in Sapiens where he's like, yeah, all this stuff about how we created God and he's probably not real, but don't tell my butler that, or whatever the comment was. Because there's this widespread idea that like if we drop the idea of God, that people become less honest. And I know the statistics don't bear that out. Atheists don't commit crimes at a higher rate than believers do. But that is the perception. And I personally think that there's a subset of the population, I don't know how many, but I just think that they kind of have to have something to hold on to give them a vertical morality. The chaos and the burden of having to choose their own morals is too much for them. They have to have faith.
Yeah. I mean, I found it. I think probably one of the biggest truths I have learned at the latter end of my atheism, if that's even a thing, has been this idea that we tend to think that everybody's brains work like ours do. And we have this very self-centric nervous system that says, oh yeah, I'm experiencing it, you've experienced it, we've all experienced the same things. And it's like, that is just not freaking true. That is not even remotely true. It's like, if you've never had epilepsy, you don't have a frame of reference for what people with epilepsy are experiencing. How much more so people with narcissistic personality disorder versus people who don't, or people who don't have depression. I don't know what the hell you people are doing. People who have never had depression, like what the hell are you even doing in this world? It's like, I look back, my whole life is depression and battling anxiety, but they do it. They do it.
Yeah. But because your episode was kind of about atheism plus, new atheism, all these terms, it was really important to me in my deconstruction to like kind of know a list of possible things. I still actually haven't chosen really a term for myself, but does your audience want to go over kind of the best terms I've found?
Yeah.
For like
Yeah. We do.
Okay. So first term, if you're searching for this, because atheists truly, I've done research on this. I am hesitant to use that term just because of the baggage that the greater society will impose upon that. Even though it's not true, even though most of it are misbeliefs and misinformation, it's going to take multiple generations for that term to not be so negative. It is my tentative conclusion. So here's some alternatives. Number one, a pantheist, someone who is indifferent to the existence of God, finding the question irrelevant to their life. A deist, someone who believes in a higher power or creator but does not subscribe to organized religion or a personal God involved in human affairs. And I wonder, Joe, your position on this, because again, our greater society has a bias toward spirituality. And so I kind of toyed around with using this term And if someone really pressed me against the wall, I'll be like, well, what God do you believe in? I'll be like, knowledge. That's a higher power than all of
Oh,
us.
man.
And
Yeah,
so maybe I'm
great.
a deist.
I think that bringing deism into the fold of atheism will definitely be controversial, but I've been known to do it because, like I tell people all the time. As a matter of fact, I got into an online argument once with Mike Huckabee of all people,
Oh,
and
wow.
he actually responded to me, and I said, and he's like, well, this country. He was talking about how this country was founded by people who believed in God, based on God. And he got the kitty. And I said, you can really say that with the influence that Thomas Paine had. I mean, Thomas Paine, come on. And he
Oh, yeah.
said,
Common sense changed the world.
right? And the age of reason should have too. I think that's the failed optimism that we can have around the age of reason. It should have changed the world, but people were not ready for it. And it's like, in a lot of ways, I think that the first new atheist was probably actually Thomas Paine. But he says Thomas Paine was not an atheist. Okay, but he was a believer in about the same way that Thomas Jefferson was. Thomas Jefferson, I brought this up with somebody just last week. I want to say that was with Kai. I said, that if you read the letters between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, Thomas Jefferson actually told John Adams, who was his rival and friend, and sometimes his frenemy, that he thought one day in this country people would regard the birth of Jesus, the generation of Jesus in the womb of a virgin, as a myth of the same kind as the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. And I was like, holy crap, dude. You can say this guy isn't atheist because he was a deist, because he did talk about providence, write about providence, ascribe things to providence. But like you're saying, if you were to say to Thomas Jefferson or Thomas Paine that knowledge or wisdom or the overarching progress and march of humanity was all that God was, I think you'd be hard pressed to get them to say no, because it's like, in their minds, God doesn't put his hand to the plow. But that doesn't mean he isn't there. It just means we don't get what he is, but you see the effect of God in society and in the behaviors, which is a much more optimistic point of view, I think, than most atheists. So I don't know. It's a good question. I've always lumped deists in with theism, except when you get to the specific ones. It's like specifically Thomas Paine. I'm like, I don't know, man. I see an agnostic there. I see a guy who wants to know the truth and just doesn't want to let go of the word God.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm kind of going through the arguments for God and which ones are the most plausible, and argument from what is it exactly? It's a subset of intelligent design, but it's like, the laws of the universe, the fine tuning argument. That's what it is. The fine tuning of the universe, and how if the law, like the nuclear force, was off just a little bit, our universe couldn't exist, life couldn't exist, stuff like that. And so, the fact that our universe is so able to have wonders and life and different planets and all this stuff, like I think that's worthy of awe and wonder.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a greater power than us. So again, like I'm just toying around with this idea that the term God can be so broad, and I can choose its meaning, and I can choose, I do feel transcendence with something greater than me, but it's not this idea of a corporeal person in a specific book. That's the big problem I have when talking with believers right now, is they're like, within three arguments, they always ask me directly, well, like, do you believe in God or don't you? And I hate answering that question, because 9 times out of 10, when I do, all they're looking for is an escape route to be like, oh, I don't have to take anything you have to say because you answered this question and I have all these assumptions attached with this, and they discredit you.
Right.
And so I've started saying like, I believe in a higher power, like not answering the question directly, but not saying no, which it tends to shut off intelligent thought. And like, what was it Spinoza that was saying like, I believe in something, but it's like the laws of the universe is my God or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
So
Spinoza was definitely good with that. I think you could also use that to describe. Oh, and I always forget his freaking name. Is one of the existentialists that you definitely couldn't call atheist entirely, but like, yeah. I mean, I'm of course a much bigger fan of Schopenhauer. I say, yeah, definitely Schopenhauer's atheist, and Camus, definitely an atheist, and I love those guys. But yeah, no, it's interesting. There's a comment here. We were talking in the live comments here about people becoming religious after like a surgery or a life threatening situation, and and how do we godless people, those of us who are godless, how do we cope with that when it's a spouse or a loved one? Because like, and I think I mentioned this last week. My wife was Mormon for the first 15 years of our marriage, and let me tell you, there are challenges. There are challenges there. Jenny's husband or partner is a Christian, like a real devout Christian, not like a soft Christian, like devout Christian, and seems like a nice guy. I haven't met him, but she has talked about how they are navigating an interfaith relationship, an interfaith partnership right now, and they're making it work. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just another aspect of things. The assumption we always have is that because most of us, when we were young, we made a commitment to have and to hold till death do we part. And in the moment, it was nice, it was great, and it was very romantic and lovely, and it was never practical.
yeah, I was actually
Right?
talking about this with Maven 2 days ago, where like, it's exactly like what you said, Joe. You hit the nail on the head. We have this presumption that like, oh, I'm coming to this new topic or this idea or life in general with this perspective. I have these experiences, and we just assume that other people are like seeing it the same way, but they have completely different lived experiences, different subjective values, different things that just resonate with them. And so when people, believe in things that I, can point to and be like, hey, this is pretty dubious, all things considered, from their perspective, they're being completely rational because the same set of facts filtered through their life is like, hey, this is what I know. This is what makes sense to me. And so coming to this conclusion about, the spiritual world is completely reasonable from their point in time, their lived experience at that point. We have to give that space and grace for people to interpret the same set of facts completely differently and for it to be valid. Now, I'm a huge proponent of reason, and I think we can use the Socratic method to be like, okay, what are your positions and to what extent can they be evaluated to be reasonable? But I'd say maybe only 3 out of 10 people are really willing to engage on that point and really, ask 10 questions in of, does this hold up? Is this justified? Are there better explanations? People get really uncomfortable when you go there.
Facts. I'm 100%. You were saying that, and well, I was also reading Lisa's comments here, and Megan's comments here. It reminded me of this. There was this moment when Molly was going to church, and she said she came home one day and she was just really frustrated after a day of the block. Back when Mormons were when the Mormon church was still true, and they were still doing 3 hours of church every Sunday, the way the true church was meant to be. Even though Joseph Smith never had a block meeting in his life, but okay. But
And Joseph Smith drank alcohol throughout his life. I just learned that.
oh yeah, he was drinking the night he was shot. That's
Yeah,
why,
yeah, exactly. I did not know that until like
right?
very recently. I couldn't believe it. But just another example of how an organization can frame things such that like certain beliefs are like, well, of course, he didn't have it the night of his leg operation. So, that's all the information you need to know about this guy, and we're not going to touch all these other facts.
Who's gonna say the closing prayer? Right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, yeah, exactly. So it's like, but my wife came home from Relief Society, and she said, oh, she was so frustrated, and I said, what's going on, baby? And she said, it's just something I heard at Relief Society today. And so, being the snarky atheist that I was, this is years ago, man. This is like 2012. This is before I was exed. And I said, ugh, you mean like everything that damn church teaches? But I did my ex-Mormon thing, my toxic thing. And she looked at me and she said, hold up. Could you be? She's like, you were Mormon once. I said, well, yeah, I remember. And she's like, listen, I'm really frustrated right now. Can you be my Mormon husband for just a minute? And I was like, and I'm like sitting here going, look, I'm ready to haul off with, look, I may have married you inside a Mormon church, but you know the reason why we did. But yeah, and so I said, okay, sure. Hit me. Mormon Joe, still Mo Joe. And she's like, and then she said, and she's told me about what had been said at Relief Society that really bothered her. And I just listened. That's it. I listened and I said, And I said, I mustered up my best Mormon Joe attitude. And I said, but it doesn't really feel like anybody was really inviting the spirit into that conversation, And she's like, exactly. And I was like, cool. Getting out of this Mormon suit now. Bye. and then it was, and she carried on with this even through when they took her temple recommend away, when they, when there was all this crisis in our personal lives. We lost we had a miscarriage, which was not uncommon, but it was a big crisis for her. It was very emotional crisis for her, and as you can imagine, of course. And then and then it wasn't until the November 5th policy that, and separating and requiring that kids of legally married gay people, had to basically be old enough to denounce their parents' lifestyle and their parents' marriage and their parents' love to be able to be members of the church in full practice. It wasn't until then that she said, no, I won't endorse this with my name anymore. She's like, I can't be involved with the church if it's going to do this. I can't even have my name on the records. She's like, she looked at me. She said that, and I'm like, are you talking to me? I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this before I knew you. I'm like, I'm for it. And then she went to quitmormon.org and she did all the things. And then as soon as she got back the paperwork saying that the church confirmed that they had removed her name from the records, then that's when I said, and she's like, she said something to the effect of, I wish I could remember the exact words. She said, I'll tell you what, I'm so glad to be free of all the problems from God and all of the stupid, rules and things. And I said, wait a minute. Back up. That's not about the church. That's about God. What's going on there? And she's like, I'm basically an atheist. And I'm like, what? Since when? And she's like, I think for years. I was like, I did that. And it's like, but when you're in the church, you got to pretend, you got to fake it till you make it. You got to bear your testimony, strengthen your testimony, but bearing your testimony, and it's like, it kept her in for years through our marriage, over a decade of our marriage. And then we've carried on almost a decade since,
Yeah,
so it's like,
I cannot believe the power in Stephen Hassan's work and deconstructing all those things where it's like, Holy cow. Yeah, that thought-stopping cliche can keep people in for years and decades and not be aware of what the greater game being played is. And finally, when I read his work and was like, oh my gosh, yeah, these high demand religions do like 30 things, and it is very powerful to keep people in. Like I'm having a conversation with one of my former mission companions, and like he cannot stay to one topic, even though like he's one of the few people that will actually engage with me, long term. But as soon as we get a little into a topic, then he changes topics. And that's one of the questions that I asked, and he will not give a straight answer to. And I'm like, what is a good reason to leave the church? I just want a couple. Just give me a couple of good reasons where you would say, okay, that is justified to leave the church. And like we've been talking for weeks, and finally I told the story that I told on the Bishop's Interview channel last week, where I had a colleague in Teach for America leave the church because she personally was sexually abused by her bishop. And so my mission companion acknowledged, okay, that's a good reason. But he has not been able to procure a single reason on his own. That's the furthest we've come, is he's agreed with that, and there are no other things that he'll commit to. Like there's no good reason to leave.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking of this. So a couple of things. Like, I talked about this. I think you were in the room on Wednesday service. When I talked about that this week, I looked up my mission president. It was one of the wisest people I ever met. And
I love the story. Yeah, I did watch that.
Yeah. And I looked him up. I've only looked him up like twice since I got home from my mission. And I know he lives in Utah. And and I remember the first time I looked him up and thinking, wow, my mission president's kind of cool now. Shit, I can't. And I like clicked off of it. And then I went back onto his Facebook page this last week, and his Facebook page says nothing about his membership in the church or anything like that. And he had all the first like 4 posts on his page, his description, whatever it's called, his bio or status, whatever, says it said something like it says avid reader, member of the Democratic Party. I was like, great. And I said, and I started looking at his posts, and the first 4 posts are anti-Trump Midas Touch videos. And I'm like, all right, I can't watch Midas Touch anymore because it's like, it's so sensationalized that I'm like, I don't disagree with you people politically and your idealism and things like this, but it's like some of these headlines are a little off for me. It's like, I don't
dropped off. Bulwark I still subscribe to, but maybe a third of their stuff has become sensational now. I don't like that.
Yeah, I think I don't need it. I don't need all the hype. I don't need all the what do you call it? But anyways, yeah, that's right. Well, even when that, it's like I don't know, exaggeration anyway. And so he's got like the first 4 posts are just Midas Touch videos about Trump, how much he dislikes Trump. I'm like, okay, I'm into it. And then I'm like, man, what kind of Mormon is this guy? And then like his next video was an analyzing Mormonism video with Julia, and I'm like, oh, Presidente Benitez, shame. Oh my gosh. So of course I friended him, and Facebook was like, you don't even know this person. I'm like, I sure do. I didn't know how much I did. But yeah, I couldn't even friend him because we had no friends in common or anything.
Yeah, I work with Oasis in Salt Lake. They're kind of like my secular community, and I haven't announced broadly to my tribe that I have left the church. But I did post on my Facebook that I was giving a keynote address at Oasis on a Sunday morning. And one of my BYU Jerusalem professors sees it and attends. And it turns out he has left the church. I couldn't believe it. Like BYU Jerusalem was such like a cult within a cult as far as like how strong we all believed, and now
So strong.
come to find out, like multiple people from BYU Jerusalem, including a professor, has left. It blew my mind. It was so crazy, awesome.
That's it. That is awesome, man. That's great. Yeah. So, what was I going to tell you about something else? No, it doesn't matter. But yeah. Oh, what was it? Who else was I thinking? And then I discovered this. Oh, I had a companion, not a companion, a zone leader from Peru, and who lives in Lima still. And he messaged me, and we've messaged, off and on throughout the years. And he's like, he had told me, he's like, the first time he contacted me, he's like, you are so strong in the church. I don't understand. He said, but I get it. Everybody's got their own journey. And then like years later, I get another message from him, and he's like, what is it with all of you American Mormons leaving the church? And I was like, what? And he's like, you remember Elder so-and-so? Not really. I remember the name, but no, not really. And he's like, down in Texas. I'm like, okay. He's like, he left the church. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. And he's like, and then Elder so-and-so and Elder so-and-so and Elder so-and-so. He starts going off all these guys that we served with who have all left the church now. And he's like, is there something in the water in America that you guys, I'm like, it's just reason, man. It's just thinking
Yeah.
things through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Joseph Smith himself that said the solution to poor thinking is more thinking. It's the church values itself that led me out. If we are really sincere about caring about truth, like where does that logic follow eventually?
But yeah. And so he's then one day he messages me, and this was in 2020. And he's like, hey, I know things are crazy and wild right now. Or no, 2021, I think. Yeah, 2021. He messages me and he says, hey, long time no speak. Are you around? Are you still in Utah? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And he said, are you around this weekend? And I'm like, did you come up from Peru? And he's like, yeah. I was like, to Utah? And he's like, yeah, I'm staying with somebody over in a place called Alpine. And I'm like, dude, that's right up the street from me. And he's like, well, yeah, I landed just earlier today. And I'm like, you're here? I'm like, let's go. And so and he's like, so I met up with him. And then he's like, I said, let's go find. I said, I invite you over to the house, but it's a little crazy over here. I said, so let's just meet neutral ground somewhere. And so he's like, yeah. So he's like, he's like, I already ate. And I'm like, me too. I said, let's just meet up at Starbucks. Just not even thinking. Like, let's just meet up at the Starbucks over here. The same Starbucks where I met up with Jeremy Runnels, by the way, and we talked about the Korihor argument and the CES letter. And so it's the same. It's like the same table. Even I sat down and talked with my old zone leader. And I'm like, "What are you doing here, man?" And he said, "I came up to get the vaccine." And I'm like, "The COVID vaccine?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's great, man." And he's like, "I come here." I said, "I went to Texas, and I got it." He said, and he's like, and I said, "Why did you suddenly now decide?" He's like, "Well, you guys have it, and we don't have it down in Peru." And he said, and I'm having to deal every day in the funerals. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm stake president now. And I'm like, you're a stake president in the Mormon church? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you kidding me? We are not old enough to be stake presidents. And he's like, we are in Latin America. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And so I'm like how often? He says, every single week. Every single week we're holding funerals. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's bad. I said, I'd heard it's bad, but I don't think I knew. He's like, the worst thing is, my wife and I have been trying to have a baby for 10 years now and couldn't have a baby and couldn't have a baby. And then we got pregnant right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, oh crap. He's like, so now I have this precious baby we have fought for years, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified of it. He said, my wife's still too fragile to travel. Couldn't get visas for all three of us, but he's like, but I could get a visa for me to come to America. And he's like, so I could get the vaccine. And so I did it. And this guy, I mean, this is not an inexpensive trip. And he flew here, went to Texas. He says, I go to Texas. And he said, I just went straight from the airport to the first Walmart I could find and just went in to get a vaccine. And I'm like, go walk into a Walmart, and they're talking, and they're playing something on the radio about please, please, please get the vaccine. And he's like, can you believe? He's like, they have to beg people here to get it. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what the hell is wrong with you people? I'm like, well, there's a lot of skepticism up here. I'm like, you think that talking about God is controversial. In America, talking about the vaccine is controversial right now. That's like probably the most controversial thing that was going right then. I said, I believe in it. He's like, did you get it? I'm like, oh, I got it on schedule. And I had all my kids get it on schedule. And my wife was on schedule. We're all on schedule. We're pro-vax people here. I said, but I had to come around on it because I used to be one of those people who didn't. And I said, but it's a sensitive subject with a lot of Americans. And he's like, but not in Utah. I mean, even the prophet is encouraging everybody. I said, well, now you're really talking about something controversial. And he's like, I just can't believe it. And I said, well, maybe if people saw what was going on in Lima, they'd feel differently. But, we are Americans, so we don't give a shit.
I've had more members tell me that Russell M. Nelson is a fallen prophet because of that than anything else, by a factor of at least 5.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I have friends who are skeptics of it, and I get it. Like I used to be a skeptic about vaccines until it threatened. This is like one of the most toxic things I'm going to confess to here. Until there was a measles outbreak at Disneyland, and I realized, oh crap, all these Mormons go to Disneyland. I'm like, that means my kids could get measles. I'm not losing kids to measles. I'm like, all right, everybody's getting vaccinated. This is when the older two were really.
No, I need your help. I want to create a meme that kind of captures this. Like, there is so much on this topic, but like, I want to do like, I don't know how to represent it, but like maybe a Venn diagram of like the greater topic of vaccines. And then like, here's a section of the circle that is like, okay, if you focus on these, areas of research, like there's a lot of reason to be concerned. But like, as far as it relates to the whole circle of everything we know about it and all the data, like it is just a small corner. But here's the big insight that I want to somehow capture in a picture. It's like, you can live your whole life in that little circle and always be learning and have the illusion that like, you're getting all this like good information, but you're getting information that is just, all it is bias.
Right. But I mean, see, and that's the thing I learned from the Korihor argument. Probably the hardest lesson I've had about this is, if you try to reason with people who have when they are convinced about something, however convinced they are, you're not really arguing against their logic at that point, and you're really arguing against their feelings, and that's hard to do, and once again, never, not to mention, it may be wrong to do in a way. Because you can wind up losing your association with this person who you love, and that you want them to be a part of your life and you want to be a part of theirs. And you can have a more positive impact in the long run by keeping them in your circle than by not. We got Gene here. I'm going to throw him in the mix. What's up, Gene?
Gene, represent.
But it's been an interest, but there has to be, I think that there has to be some room to say, and I feel like politics is the same. I have friends who are Trump supporters and know that I am not, that I'm very much not. That's me personally. And, but I'm like, but I just want to clarify, because this has become so polarized politically that, that you're going to think, oh, I'm a Kamala supporter, you're a MAGA, we can't be friends. I'm like, I just want to clarify, we are friends. And that's, I will be, you can say your political feelings to me and I will listen. And I'm not going to shun you because that's stupid toxic behavior, and it's not worth it to lose you in my life. I'm not, this is these things come and go. Other countries, where they have more than two political parties, it's not as difficult. I mean, if you've ever lived in a foreign country, you lived in Argentina, I lived in Peru. Gene has been to Thailand. We don't talk about it all the time when he did Thailand. No, we have that agreement. But in other countries, where you have more than two political parties, people get involved in relationships and have relationships where you can just have political conversations, and everybody still loves each other. You still you don't have to be against each other. We got Colch here, so I'm going to throw Colch in the mix now.
Yeah, one of the greatest books ever written on the subject of communication. It's called Difficult Conversations, and they say that every conversation you have is actually three conversations.
Whoa.
It's what you're talking about, the topic. Oh crap, now I forget the second conversation. It's the actual topic, something else, but then the big insight is the third topic that you're always talking about, even though you're not talking about it, is our identity. What does the topic say about my worldview, how I view myself, and who I am as a person? So when you say something against one of my beliefs, you're attacking me as a person, and brain scans will show that when that happens, the same parts of the brain that activate when you're physically assaulted are activated when you are talking against someone's personal beliefs.
Oh, man.
That's crazy. We got culture in the house.
So let me
Joe.
say one thing real quick. It's not the only reason why I came on, but apparently with your connection to Peru, in Peru, prophets can't see around coroners.
Oral foreigners.
Oh,
There
sad.
was so much death and destruction, he had to come to America, your stake president friend.
Oh man. I hate to tell you this, Gene. That's almost as bad as my Mickey Mouse joke I told on Colch's show, and I got roasted for it. Roasted.
I think at least it was on the after show, Joe, so only like 10 people saw it.
This is a Linger Longer after show, so it counts.
That's right. Oh man, no, it's with the dad jokes making sense. Yeah, but it's like, I'm grateful to have thought several times over the course of the last week. That was the after show. Who knows what happens if Ward Radio ever got hold of one of Colch's after shows?
I mean, if they want to pay, they can.
You're like, I got the
it's
goods.
Only $2.
Am I gonna have to pay you to not give Cardinellis any access to me talking about how the MTC has got more penises than you expect?
Oh man, the tree of life traumatized me.
Right? We had
another thing I was thinking, Joe, as you were sermonizing and just observing how you just go about your daily life. There are a few of my Mormon friends that I respect and revere, and I think they're awesome, mostly because they're awesome Christians, right? They to me, the gospel of love trumps the gospel of obedience. Now, I have some friends where they wear two hats and they switch them depending on what they want to do as far as that goes. But I was thinking that I know a couple people in Salt Lake City who are such good Christians that I wonder if they could support you in the activities that you do, feeding the homeless, providing blankets and stuff like that, and see if they can, bite their bullet or whatever and join up with the Church of Korihor to do some good in the community. And I wonder what that experience would do for them. It's like,
that'd be great.
Your church help me do blankets and pizza. No, okay, hey, Korihor, help me do blankets and pizza. And there's Joe.
See if any of them have money enough to buy a church, because we could buy some churches. We could save some lives out here. But
you need a church and a van, and we'll say money.
Yeah,
to pay church leaders and to pay van drivers.
And to pay for advertising, because once we can get advertising off the ground, we'll generate more as we go. So it'll be good. I mean, but things are going actually better than I had anticipated. I really had anticipated a lot more failure than I've experienced so far. You know, so yeah, things are progressing when it comes to that. But yeah, no, I mean, look, Christians who are real Christians, well, Christians as we judge Christians, which who put us in charge, you know, are some of the best people I know. So it's like and are we going to turn away their help? You know, it's like I told Steve Pinecker more than once. I'm like, I don't like hardly any teachings of Jesus. I'm just not a Jesus person. As a matter of fact, I got called an antichrist today on a Mormon's page, and I was like, yes.
Nice, Joe. That's good.
Thank you. I'm working on it. But I told him, I said, the one teaching of Jesus I really get into is, and he said, he who is not against us is on our part. I'm like, there you go. That's something me and Jesus can get down about. This is me and Jesus out here with the bridge building and the tent expanding. So yeah. No, this guy had posted. I went to post the link to the Godless Sermon on my Facebook, and I always wind up searching Core Horror just to get to it faster. And this post came up and said, I can't believe all these antichrists. And it's a mutual friend of ours, Gene, that said this. And it's like all the antichrists in the Book of Mormon are all about this. I don't know how well you know this person. And I was like, look, and he said, and then Korihor said, you know, this. And I was reading it, and I'm like, well, that's not what Korihor exactly said, but he gets the gist of it. The gist of it is true. And so I had commented in the midst of all these Mormons commenting on this guy's post and said, well, but Korihor was right. When this mutual friend of ours looks at my page, he may wind up contacting Eugene going, who is this guy? And he's like, well, it sounds to me, he's like, right about what? And I said, well, like that no child is guilty of their parents' crimes. I mean, that's a pretty non-controversial thing. And it's pretty core to the gospel, is basically programming everybody to believe you're born with a deficit and you got to pay this debt. You got to pay this debt off before you die. And I'm like, and so he says, well, it sounds like you're very anti-Christ. And I said, thank you. I said, but why exactly? I haven't I haven't checked to see if he responded yet. But I'll tell you, I don't know how you guys feel about this. You guys tell me, okay? I've recently, right now, right now they have at Zion Media. You guys been following Zion Media since Coach and I did the deep dive into their Discord?
They invited me on their show, Joe.
Did they really?
I
kind of got a soft.
I was watching Steve Pinecker's live he does on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a mix of people who were in there. You got Mormons, you got some ex-Mormons, you got some kooky Mormons.
And evangelicals.
One of the guys from Zion Media, Trevor, maybe is his name?
Trevor Keys.
Yeah. He was like, Coach, you should come on sometime. I'm like,
yeah, you should do it.
Never say it. What would I talk to them about? Like,
who cares? It'll be fun just to do it. Well, they're all about. They have a used Tesla 3. Apparently, one of them doesn't want. Probably Shane Baldwin. And they're talking. They've been saying for months that they'll give this Tesla away to somebody who can connect them to the Davidic servant or one of the 3 Nephites, like the actual living person. And so they've had people coming on their show saying, yeah, I'm the Davidic servant.
Can I get that Tesla?
and they wind up interviewing them, then deciding you're not the Davidic servant. Get out of here.
Well, isn't it Midiga? Isn't Midiga supposed to be the Davidic servant?
That's what everybody said. That's what I said and then he came out and said he wasn't the Davidic servant, but he is like a Davidic servant. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're claiming they're going to give it away to the person who can connect them to.
Oh, okay. You don't have to be the Davidic servant,
right?
Just connect them.
Yeah, it's like, well, what gift are you going to give to the Davidic servant? But see, this is what I'm saying though. I'm like looking at him like Davidic servant. What about the Antichrist? And I'm like, isn't this whole apocalyptic thing supposed to be all based around the Antichrist, the coming of the Antichrist? So that's when I thought, maybe that's my angle to start getting some earned media in the news and stuff. Is I'm just going to go around to these people and say, I figured it out. Screw the Davidic servant. You want the Antichrist, and this is him right here. Joe Rollins, first herald of the Church of Korihor, the Antichrist.
The Antichrist is one that gets the ball rolling on all the end
That's right.
things, right?
That's right.
Yeah, he's like
that's how I read it.
A Satan figure. Like Satan is needed in God's plan. Like he's a part of the message.
That's right. That's right. So when you talk to Zion Media, you tell them that the Antichrist, and he leans into it.
Wouldn't it be funny if Satan gets to go to the celestial kingdom? Like it's just been a role he's playing. He's like, yeah, I'll play the bad guy, but at the end, you save me with everybody else.
Yeah, my uncle points to several passages where he believes that's what the final war in Doctrine and Covenants is about, where all these souls are going to battle, and then Satan's going to be like, okay, I played my part, now redeem us all.
Plus, everybody's going to say, look, Satan, if it wasn't for Satan, I wouldn't have been able to progress, right?
Opposition in all things.
Opposition in all things. The sweet and the bitter, baby. Yeah. Yeah. No, but they say that you remember Coach and I were in that Discord the other day, the Zion Media Discord, and they had this like running thread in their conspiracy channel, and they had this whole running thread about, is Elon Musk the Antichrist? And they're like, well, we can figure this out with sacred numerology, with gematria. And so, but apparently whoever they had doing it didn't know gematria. So they had Chat GPT do the gematria. It's like, oh my God.
GPT can do anything, Joe.
I think the letters GPT add up to 666 in Hebrew numerology.
Of course.
No. So Chat GPT would know.
Chat GPT is the Antichrist, Joe. It's not you.
Do you remember? You ever seen these people go around talking about Monster energy drinks are the Antichrist? No. They have so like they say that if you look at the Monster energy drink logos, the M there, and that is the number 6 in Hebrew 3 times, and that Monster energy drinks is the Antichrist.
Wow.
I'm just like, oh man, this is good. I mean, in that world, anybody can get a platform. As long as it's sensational, you'll get a platform. But we were looking at how Elon Musk is not, according to ChatGPT, Elon Musk is not the Antichrist. And I was reading the description while we were live the other day, and I looked at it and I said, but that describes me like to a T. It says, oh, well, the Antichrist will be flattering. Okay, cool. Believe that there is no sin and teach people that there is no sin. And will become very popular very quickly. I'm like, how is this not Exmo Joe? Exmo Joe is the Antichrist, man. Yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah. I think if it gets me a little bit of airtime on KSL, I'll do it. If it get me on KSL. I just want the Lord's media outlet to acknowledge I am the Antichrist.
That'd be cool, Joe.
How are you doing up there, Gene? You know you're muted, by the way.
He doesn't.
He's been Korihord, and he even knows it. He knows it.
Yep. Give him his voice back. Make him beg for it.
I muted for a little bit. I was just saying that's a logo. That'd be a great logo on some new atomic powered car or something like that. Something to blow Tesla out of the water.
I was thinking about it this week. I'm like, we could do something like that. And it's like a lot of the technology for Tesla, Elon Musk makes a big deal about how it's like all open source. It's like, yeah, but a lot of it was open source already. But
just partner with that electric truck guy that got a bunch of church money to sponsor his products. What's the name of that?
Which guy was that? No, I don't know who you're talking about.
So Nikola Motors or something like that, because he wanted to
oh really
go against Tesla, and so he raised a bunch of money, and he had a film where they pushed a truck down a hill.
I've seen that, Joe.
And then filmed it. as if
They were trying to make like
it was working.
semi-trucks, electric semi-trucks.
Yeah,
And
semi-truck,
he
right.
faked the whole thing, that it was like they had built it and it was going really well, and then they got to a point where they couldn't fake it anymore.
That's
And
right.
he
He's
had to
the
admit,
Joseph Smith of the semi-truck all electric vehicles.
That's funny. Well, I'll tell you where I thought of it though is that is when Trump announced that this tariff on steel and aluminum, and I'm like, have you seen a Cybertruck? You think you're gonna make that happen with President Elon sitting right there? President Elon is not going to sign off on any of that. But I thought, you know, if he does though, the price of cars in this country is gonna. I mean, and that's something they can't afford to do. You think this man is powerful? Not compared to the freaking car lobby. Cars don't just make money at the manufacturing level. So much of our economy runs on car lots and mechanics and the supply chain for all this. Like our economy relies on that cars keep rolling out off the line and onto the streets. You're going to get away with that for maybe 24 hours, but ain't no way. But I thought about it and said, well, you could make cars with carbon fiber and actually arguably make them better. I thought, well, maybe somebody should just do that. Maybe just get into the, make cars with bodies that are made of carbon fiber. Let's
start a new conspiracy theory. Humans used to just take in nutrients just from the air, and then food producers changed our genetics so that we demanded food so that they can still have jobs. Otherwise, we wouldn't need food. So how's that for a conspiracy? Started right here.
It's not half bad, actually. I mean, basically, as I understand, that's basically food stamps. It's like, you can credit food stamps with the fact that we are able to feed more people in this country. But really what it did is it employed truck drivers, it employed farmers, it employed, scientists, it employed people to make fertilizer, it employed people to take garbage away. It's like, food stamps run the economy. That's why, remember when Nancy Pelosi came out and said one of the best job creators we have in our economy is food stamps, and Fox News ripped her apart. Like, food stamps don't make jobs. And it's like, then they got all these economists on to talk about it. And they're like, well, actually, no, food stamps are like actually one of the best job creators.
I've been thinking of humans as an organism lately. Ants. The ants are supposed to be like, there's one colony on the West Coast and they're all related and they all like can talk to each other. And so it's sort of like the root system of some tree, and mushrooms, can do this similar thing. But I was thinking, like, if an alien super race, whatever, came to the Earth, they wouldn't think of humans as very much more than ants, right? But they would be amazed. They'd be like, look, these ants are driving these little things and they break down. And then another human comes and picks it up and they crash on the road, and some more people come and clean it up. And we got all these interactions where humans as an organism are doing all kinds of things. People get sick, so they have hospitals. People, need jobs, so they create food stamp system, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
And just as an organism, we're doing a pretty amazing job. I think aliens would be kind of impressed. They'd be like, hey, everybody, let's study these guys. But first we have to dig right into their backside. Sweet. Anybody want a bagel?
Oh, God.
Because that's where you start, right?
You were doing so well.
But I am impressed with just humans as an organism. And I've been telling people like the theists all think that there's no morality without God, right?
Yeah, you got to have God.
Like morality has been like 80,000 years older than any God, right? We exist because 80,000 years ago, people were nice to each other in clans, and that was genetically positive. If you messed around, you'd get kicked out and you couldn't survive on your own. If you obeyed the rules in your group, you could maybe get a mate and maybe pass your genes along, and you survive. And so,
yeah. So it's okay. I was going to make a comment earlier about was that because you've been watching The Last of Us? The Last of
I
Us.
can't wait for the prequel, The First of Us, to come out.
That was a
That'll be
decent joke, Gene.
That'll be after it all ends in controversy and they like kill off the main character or something.
I've just been describing The First of Us anyway, with the 80,000 years ago was morality. I think Ringo Starr starred in 1 BC or something, or 10,000 BC or whatever. So that would have been sort of, we can base it on that as a reboot.
I dig it.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna drop. I gotta go do family
It
stuff.
was
Good to
good
see
talking to you,
everybody.
man.
Yeah,
See you,
you
Coach.
too.
Yep.
Always a pleasure.
Good to
See
see
ya,
Coach.
you woke scolds.
Colts, what do you got coming up for everybody in
okay.
the near future?
Oh, it's very big.
This Thursday. So I had someone reach out to me the other day wanting to come on the show. I was going to do this Thursday. I had planned on doing a recap of RFM's debate with the Midnight Morons that I was really excited about, but something better came up. So I've got Michelle Stone coming up. She doesn't like to be called a polygamy denier. She likes to be called a monogamy affirmer. So Michelle Stone, monogamy affirmer, will be on the show this week, and I might.
So Colts, for homework, you have to go check out. 11 months ago, I interviewed Michelle Brady Stone.
Oh, did you?
And
Okay,
Maven was on the show as well, and
Okay.
Maven had to bite her tongue a lot.
I've been watching a lot. Like I've gone down a Michelle rabbit
Oh
hole.
man, that is gonna be wow. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that now.
And
Also on Thursday?
I'm this Thursday. I'm thinking of breaking my Jacob Hansen fast. Like it'll be almost 3 weeks because there's a lot of beef there with those two. In fact, Joe just sent me something. They were setting up a debate, but apparently Michelle said nah to it. And so Jacob posted this whole thing whining about it. So I think I have to. I think I have to break
Michelle
the fast,
can be a tease
guys.
sometimes.
We'll see.
She's bailed on me twice.
Has she? Well, we're gonna. I've got other stuff I can do. Yeah.
Have a backup. Have a plan. She's bailed
Joe's
on
my
me twice.
backup. He'll come on and hang.
Yeah.
But it's planned for Thursday. I plan on making it very nice and cordial. Like I told her, it's not going to be a debate or anything. I just really want to like chat with her, get to know her, learn about her, and hear what she's got to say about things.
That sounds great, man. I hope it happens. I really do, because I think you guys will both have a good time, hopefully. But between her and Zion Media, if you do have contact with them, talk about polygamy. Tell them Joe Rollins is still out there looking for somebody who wants to debate with him. I'm putting it out there. I'll debate in defense of Joseph Smith created Mormon polygamy. I've got it.
Colts, we have to do a show about your channel soon.
Sure, Gene. I mean, it's not much to talk about. It's just this.
It doesn't matter. Just so that
it's
I
only
get to
like
call
one
you
of the most
Fletch
popular
a couple times. That's all I care about.
I wouldn't say that. You know what?
It's one of the most fastest growing podcasts in the space, man.
I can't tell if it's the name change, but like my views have dropped. Like
really?
Maybe it's just the last 2 weeks have been kind of off topic.
You should have just renamed it Hall.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I still kept the name. Like the actual name is @cultural_hall. I didn't change that. I just changed up.
Oh, really?
Cultural Hall to Culture.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
I
think it's because 2 weeks ago I had my band on, and maybe people weren't really interested in that, so I don't blame them. And then we had the birthday bash, which I thought people would enjoy, but not many people watch that, so I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
Maybe this Michelle stuff will get things back up.
I blame Bill Reel and RFM on everything. That's my newest thing, because like there's been a couple of times where like my live numbers were really bad.
Oh, well, you go up against.
What did I do? And that's what's always like, you go live up against Mormon Discussions, right? I'm like, oh shit, am I really?
every once in a while, I'll do a Wednesday night show because if I have a guest that can't do Thursday, and I purposely try to bump it as late as possible, so hopefully I catch. People ending there will come over, or there's maybe a little bit of overlap.
I think the 6 p.m. Eastern time space should be wide open for doing the live shows. If you think about it, 6 p.m., you get the 4 and 5 p.m. after work crowd for the Central and the Mountain times. And then you get the people like me that don't have a job that can watch at 3 p.m. on the West Coast.
See, for me, Gene, I have to wait until the Kolch household goes to sleep.
That's right.
And so I usually will not start until
Just start setting the clocks
9:30.
like cult daylight time.
Mhm.
And they'll say, but Dad, it's still light outside. No, look at the clock.
No,
Time-
it says it's time
time.
to go. I don't know if
Yeah.
my kid will go for that, Gene. He's pretty smart. He's on that
So
smart end
I'll
of the
tell you,
ASD
Colts,
spectrum.
coming up probably in a month on my channel is a former mission president is going to talk about
Ooh,
his experience as a mission president during COVID.
that'll be
Mm.
interesting.
That's cool.
Megan
Yeah,
was
that
like,
would be interesting.
hey, has John DeLynn ever had a former mission president? And I'm like, probably not.
I don't
But
know.
we'll see what happens.
There you go.
That's cool.
I tell you, I am desperate to get my mission president on the show. I would love to interview him because I'm like,
Get
I'd
him,
love
Joe.
to get his take on this. Because
And Kendall has 20 shows planned for a collab.
Me and Kendall are going to figure something else to do.
Yeah, I have lots of ideas. Yeah, we need to make stuff happen.
And today, Maven and I are interviewing Dr. Randy Bell.
Oh, cool.
About his book that he
Nice.
wrote.
Oh, cool.
I like
Wow.
Randy.
Nice.
He's a good dude.
So
Nice.
he sent me this. Look at this. It's a paperback, but it has like a cover, inside cover, so you could still have the dust cover.
Mm.
So it could dual as you're where you are in the book.
Oh,
It's a bookmark.
I thought you
okay.
were. I thought you were going to say
nice.
so that you can still write a dedication in the flap, and then the person doesn't have to look at it.
I remember Steve Pinecker talking about how he gets books sent to him all the time, and I did my show for like maybe 9 months before I got my first book, and it was a surprise book. I just said, "Hey, Matt Harris, come on our show and talk about Second Class Saints," and he goes, "Oh, send me your email, and I'll have my publisher send you a copy." I was
That's
like,
pretty cool.
I get a free book,
That's cool.
and then
All right, fellas, I'm going to drop
Summer Rain
you.
helped.
Be good.
See you,
All right, talk to you later.
See you, Coach.
So yeah,
Do it.
I'm
Do it.
I'm simulcasting this show because I want people in my audience to see more Joe, because I am very impressed with Joe. Aren't you, Kendall?
Oh, totally, absolutely.
He probably would have twice as many subscribers right now if he would like get rid of the beard and go to his hair down to like this.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the way.
So you're
This
gonna
is
have to
the
do
way.
it. You're gonna have to do it on a live show, the Joe makeover show.
I will shave off my beard just to show all you people how badly you are going to miss the beard. I look like the world's ugliest, fattest 10-year-old when I don't have my beard.
Well, that's right. When Joe was born, the doctor hung him up by his arms and spanked to slap his face. Or the other way is like slap the mother.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
So anyhow.
This person is a Justin. He's a mutual friend of ours. I don't know how many of your friends are actual friends. Right? He looks like I don't think he's Exmo, but he's definitely on the Progmo side. But definitely Christian. But yeah, that's this person that basically called me an antichrist, and I'm into it right now.
That's right. And I just tell all my promo friends, right? The either progressive Mormons or pro-Mormon friends, is like, hey, only Russell Nelson could create 17 million ex-Mormons overnight.
Okay.
Once he declared Mormon was a bad word, every member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is by definition anti-Mormon.
Yep.
Oh, yep, that's true. That works out.
And
I was
then
thinking
also, I guess, ex-Mormons. So.
I was thinking just the other day or just yesterday, I was like, the phrase "another testament of Jesus Christ" really kind of like gives me a little bit of hope for those progmos, because I look at them like, if you look at it from this lens, you could say any person who knows the history of the Bible will know that in the Old Testament you'll read a bunch of stories of things that didn't historically happen. The flood, it never happened. The Garden of Eden, it never happened. Even King David, didn't happen. It just didn't happen. and David and Goliath didn't happen. And it's like, but they see the value of the stories in their lives. And the same thing with the New Testament. Even if you believe that Jesus was real, which I don't find convincing, but I don't know isn't true either. Most of the stories about him, are just recycled from some other tradition, some other story. And lots of people believe in the Bible, but know that those stories are mythical from both the Old Testament and the New Testament. If you consider the Book of Mormon truly another testament of Jesus Christ, it's not a leap to say, yeah, well, none of these people are real. It's the value of the stories that's supposed to be important. I'm like, that's it right there. That's your way out to being an academic who understands the history of Scripture and understands real world history and still maintains their faith in the church. It's like I just figured out how to save Mormonism right there. But I said, I'm just going to shut up. I'm not going to sell anybody.
Another testament that if you believe in something that's not true, it might actually help you.
Yeah. I mean, it's mythology.
I bring this up earlier. So my background is in psychology. There's something called Nelson's Law. This was relevant to a part of Joe's sermon. I forget which now, but like it states the following, like something that is not real, totally imaginary, totally made up, totally not a thing, is real because it is real in its consequences when people believe it.
Sure. Yeah. It's like, like in the core horror argument, I say even real inside the matrix is real of a kind. Because like if everything that you know to be real, you perceive with your senses. And with your mind, if you perceive an idea with your mind, it's as real as anything else in your mind, right? So it's like even real inside the matrix is real of a kind. Yeah, no, absolutely. And they matter. Like I said, whole wars are fought over God and what does God want? What is God's true nature? People who tell me, well, at least, with Christianity, you have a message of peace. I look at them and I go, do you know the history of Christianity? It's like there's this Christological schism where Christians went to war with each other over Jesus being homoousios with the Father or homoiousios with the Father. And that little letter I, which is iota in Greek, is the origin of the phrase, it doesn't make an iota's worth of difference. That was about how one little Greek letter in the middle of a word or absent from the middle of that word caused Christians to go to war with each other. And it's like this has never been a peaceful movement. I'm sorry, but it just never has been. But yeah, it's interesting.
That's right. So I've added 9 watchers to your show.
Hey,
and so I'm glad that my audience can come and see Joe. If you haven't seen Joe before, that's Joe. Now, I also interviewed Joe a couple months ago. And did we do 2 shows? Did we do one Meet Joe and then one the Core Horror was right? I don't remember.
Yeah, we did. We did at least 2. But Gene and I have a habit of going long when we decide if we can have as long as we want. We'll talk for a while. But yeah.
I usually can go long when I have a helper. It's really hard for me to solo. So I'm amazed that you gave an hour-long sermon when I was scared of a 2.5 minute talk or even the sacrament gem when I was young.
Really? Yeah.
That's right. And the real true church was going to priesthood at 8:00, Sunday school at 11:30, and then sacrament meeting at 4 p.m. That was the real true Mormon church.
I would never have lasted before block. I never would have lasted in the church. It's like it's hard enough to get my ass out of bed to go to 3-hour stretches, a 3-hour stretch of church. I'd have never gone to priesthood meeting if I definitely would never have gone to Sunday school unless I was teaching before the block. I don't know how people live like that. Yeah. So respect.
That's right. So everybody go to corehor.org and then Kendall, are you like rebooting your Learned Empowerment?
Yeah, I'm in the process. So I'm helping someone's helping me so that I can have a membership site because I'm gonna I already have the method set up, but I just have to do it. I'm going to have videos probably twice a week, and then exclusive content on my membership site on Learned Empowerment. So it's going to be, constantly learning, but not
The free
a
side and the paywall
Yeah.
membership. I should do that, but there's nothing. I don't have any good information to give people that would be worth money. I just have,
Yeah, I have 20 years of taking notes in Evernote of like all the best stuff. I literally have like 3 lifetimes worth of content.
Well, it's good. I have like 3 minutes worth of content that I recycle on every program. A couple of dad jokes, and I'm good.
Speaking of which, do you guys want to know the word of the day? I have this thing that I do, like lesser known words that I just think are fascinating. There is a specific word when like people are about to come over and you're hastily like cleaning up your house. There is a word for that. Do you want to know the word?
Yes, definitely.
The word is scurryfunge.
That's a real word.
SCURRY what?
SCURRYFUNGE.
FUN.
GE. I just put it in the chat.
So I'll put it in there as well as you did it. To hastily
apparently
tie there only has ever been scurry funging going on at our house. It's like we don't clean unless another human being's coming over.
Apparently, I heard Trevor Noah. I don't know if you've seen this as a meme that Trevor Noah was talking about in Trinidad and Tobago. They have a word. I think it was Trinidad and Tobago. They have a word for just sitting and being. I forget what it was called.
Oh, tell me! I must collect this word.
Right, and it's just like just sit there and just be. Trevor Noah. I'm probably saying.
I created a new section for foreign words that like capture things like ikigai blows my mind. Freaking love that word.
Liming.
Sedentary.
Wait,
they call it liming, like the fruit liming.
LIM.
LIMING. That's the gerund. Liming is a way of spending time with friends that involves sharing food, drinks, stories, or jokes. It's a celebration of leisure that doesn't require elaborate plans or intense activities. It's described liming as spending time together with no purpose whatsoever.
AI says Caribbean social activity. Caribbean, hanging out with friends in a public place, usually enjoying drinks. Popular spots to lime include rum shops. Ooh, lime and cola. Restaurants, street corners, parks, and the beach. Considered a successful lime if it includes lots of drinks and leads to a party. That's Trinidad and Tobago, whatever.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. And in Peru, that's called after work. It's after work. The cerveza cusqueña comes out. It's time to just roll your shirt up over your belly.
Did Peru do the siesta?
No, but they do getting drunk. Well, no, I guess they did do siesta, I guess. But it wasn't so formal as it is in Mexico.
Right. Just sort of like a long
Mexico,
lunch
it's not that common.
compared to 2-hour napping in the early afternoon.
Yeah. It's more like you just don't show up back for work. And it's like, I guess you got drunk.
Siesta in Peru is end of day.
Or all day.
Argentina is middle of the day.
Yeah,
all right, then I'm going to hop off. Thanks for everything you do, Joe. Everybody that is that sees this show, go. Friend Joe. Joe on Facebook. His name is, go ahead, spell your name on Facebook.
It's Joe Rollins, RAWLINS.
Yeah. I mean, I know what it is, but I just wanted you to do it so I didn't do a G or no S or something like that.
Yeah, the Rollins
is. I saw you on Facebook. I thought you were related to like the Dell CEO dynasty that lives out east. Those are all in. Any
I
connection?
mean, we're all related to trees somewhere up the line, but no, not that I know of. Nope. Rollins
right.
is we're good to see you,
Thanks
Gene.
everybody for watching. Go say hi to Joe, introduce yourself. And Joe needs help delivering pizzas and delivering blankets. So I'm going to try to hit up some of my TBM Salt Lake Valley people and say, look, if you consider yourself a follower of Christ, fucking help Joe.
That's right. I might say go to corohor.org. You can say go to fucking corohor.org, but I don't, have you want to do it. But yeah, corohor.org, there's a link right at the top of the page when people get there. There's a link to join as a contributor. There's also a link to donate to our causes. And right there's where you're going to find the links to donate to our missions. So yeah. Yep. And we got 2 weeks left on Rapture 2025. We're at about $400 so far donated out of our $4,000 goal. And I'm pretty concerned we're not going to make it. So
thanks everybody for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Share Joe's channel, share Joe's website with all your friends. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Gene. You're a treasure. Thanks. Bye. Okay. Yep. I got to go too.
Okay. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Everybody check out learnedempowerment.com.
Yep. And my YouTube is whatever YouTube at Kendall C. And that the video will be updated sooner than my website. So
sounds good.
Adios.
Good to see you, man. Pretty cool. We got a pretty cool community going here, you guys. When people talk about, people about needing spiritual community, the Church of Korihor is doing it. Yeah, we don't fuck about, man. We go hard. So that was fun. Yeah. I should probably check on the kids and see if people are eating upstairs. But yeah, this was good. I was concerned that I hadn't prepared enough material for this morning's sermon, but appears that it worked out well. But like I said, I got like halfway through, preparing a rant about Russian interference into our political system and what the significance of that was before I realized this has nothing to do with what we're doing. And I was like, never mind, I bail. So it's like late last night. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start over. And so that's when I said, really what I want to talk about is this. Because like I had been listening to recently, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding Sam Harris. And it's like, man, this has been like going on so long with especially like the CJ Whirlman and the Glenn Greenwald thing. And I started looking into, Glenn Greenwald. People think of Glenn Greenwald as this woke super journalist, because he, basically helped crack open WikiLeaks and these all of this stuff exposing what was really going on in the war in Iraq. And it's like, okay, yes, he did a lot of that, but then he also started into, I'm not 100% certain how he got into attacking both Sam Harris and the and atheism, new atheism as a whole. Apart from that, it must have just offended him. It mainly offended him. He got offended on behalf of people he knew who were religious, and which Glenn Greenwald, as far as I know, is himself not. As far as I know, he's a non-practicing Jew. I don't know, but he leans into Sam Harris as being a Jew, and I'm like, whoa, where? I mean, you don't have to come at it from the anti-Semitic angle there, Mr. Left, Mr. Super journalist, super Democrat guy. It's like, you don't have to come at it like that. You leave that out. You know for a fact that Sam Harris, yes, raised in a Jewish household, is not a practicing Jew. And neither are you, as far as I know, unless I'm wrong. And there's no reason for anybody to be going after each other. But he wants to accuse Sam of being an Islamophobe, which, I mean, we then you have to get into what does this word mean, and it's like, and there's just not a consistent enough standard for what constitutes, Islamophobe. And it's just a heck of a lot easier to do in any other place that phobe gets applied. Homophobe's pretty easy. I think that's pretty easy to nail down. Transphobes, it's pretty easy to show what is and isn't. Islamophobes is like, yeah, there are people who are just terrified of Muslims, but it's like, and prejudiced against them, and those people suck, man. Yeah, let's call all of them out. But to say, well, I don't believe in God, and that makes you an Islamophobe, or I think that there's a difference between the level of harm caused by Jainism than the level of harm that could be caused by jihadism. It's like you can't even, and it's like when even that makes you the enemy. Well, can we even have a conversation about anything anymore? I mean, so that's where we start to expose this controversy inside of atheism and the new atheist movement, where it's like, well, then they come back at us with gender identity versus gender expression versus biological sex, matters. That's like, this is settled. We don't even have to have a conversation about this. You could just Google it and you'll settle all your questions. And they don't have questions. They have beliefs. And it's like, that's when I said, that's the real crisis right there. We have to talk about this, about how in atheism, inside the new atheism expansion of godless people, there are some people who came to the conclusion that God is BS and stopped. We're not willing to challenge any other convention of their life, and we need to be able to not walk away from atheism, whatever that is. I've never been really passionate as an atheist. It's like, I'll tell people I'm an atheist, and I'm passionate about believing other things than God. But the label itself, it's just like Sam Harris said in that in his talk at Skepticon all those years ago. I want to say it was 2008, where he said, it's like every time we go by the label atheist, it's like we walked up to the chalk outline at a crime scene and laid down in it. It's like, yeah, I do kind of feel that way. And most atheists I know kind of feel that way. But it's, how do we do with navigating the toxicity inside of this movement where nobody's the leader? Nobody can call anybody out and say, hey, that's not the way we're not doing that. That's not what this movement's about. They all want to call us out and say, no, what you're talking about isn't what this is about. It's like, well, it's not like a church. It's not like a religion. Nobody started it with a mission of what it's supposed to be. It just kind of happened. So anyways, I've had a good time. I hope you guys have had a good time too. That's a quote from my friend Jen Murray, who's my favorite watch along. You guys should check out Jen Murray. She's got a great channel. I've been supporting her channel for years. But I do got to go check on these kids. I love your faces. I hope you guys have a great second Saturday.